And then they also said that the student. Whatever reason. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order and start with the pledge of allegiance. Yes, they are. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation. All right. If any members are attending through Zoom, please have your. You don't have to have the cameras on, do you? That's what my chief said. Board members. If any members of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, please fill out one of the blue comment cards and give it to the board secretary. If you're attending virtually through Zoom, place comments. This is an old one. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Current policy allows for items on the agenda to be open for comment. I just want to remind everybody, Tanya said that when we get all real talkative, that we forget to give our names and to wait our turns, because we're not being very clear. Okay. Move on to 2.0, written communications.
The board received a email yesterday. Tanya forwarded that to you from a parent of 2 North Middle School students. So just making sure that you all saw that in your inbox yesterday. Okay, that's it.
2.2, requests from persons wishing to speak. We have 2 of them tonight, one for 1.0. So, and then one for 7.1.2. Judy. And Judy, you didn't put your address. I had a request from a board member to read out addresses.
To leave them out?
No, to read them out. Are you in the district or out of the
I
district?
just have to show that. Oh, no, I'm not in the district.
Perfect.
Okay, I thought you didn't know. Okay, that's good. So good evening, board members, superintendent. Like I said, I want to talk about 1.0, really important to my heart. As you notice, we all start the meeting here this evening by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And allegiance to our country is very important. Because what's going on in the world right now, it's like really good. And I know that the Director of Education at the state level, from what I understand, I haven't verified it, but some people I know that I trust have verified it. And they indicate that you only have to say the Pledge of Allegiance a few times a week. You don't have to say it every morning. But here's my deep concern, and especially to you board members. If they're not made, if it's you have the objection to you can either do it 5 days a week, or you can do it 3 days a week, and some of them want to do 4 days a week. I would like to see the board just to clarify that every morning when those kids come in that classroom every morning, that they stand and they say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know, because there's a lot of principals of you here this evening, but I think that's a minimum, and I do say that's a minimum they can do for our country. Now, whether they get a lot of propaganda, you know how kids get propaganda and they listen to it, and you see people stomping on their flag, and they see a lot of things that they shouldn't probably be seeing. But in spite of that, they don't have to say it. But I would like to see every one of you board members say, this will be our policy. If it's not the policy right now, I think it should adamantly be the policy. That every morning when that bell rings, and I'm so glad there's so many principals here this evening, when that bell rings, they have a courtesy that the first thing that you do on your agenda, you've got lots of agendas, reading, writing, good classic books, you got a lot of good stuff. And math, but that is why we're here. We're here, and what we're seeing going around our country, and it is right now, is so adamant. So I would say, if it's not being done, if for some reason forgot, or whatever the deal is, I think it should be a policy. If it has to be a written policy, or it can be a verbal policy, or it can be voted on. If it has to be voted on, and then we'll see that all you board members are in favor of having the Pledge of Allegiance said every morning. I think that's the minimum that we can do for our students and teach them to be good patriots. And then I have to say thanks.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you. 2.3, financial.
No. I have a second. Bruce.
All right, Rick Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Rick Nelson. I live in the county, but I live in Josephine County. And I consider all students my children in every school. On August 8th, the revised 36-page edition for K through 12 health education draft standards came out August 8th. They were submitted to the godless, unelected bureaucrats at the Department of Education for approval. In this document, there's over 100 inappropriate sex and transgender references just for K through 5. Not surprisingly, egregious requirements for kindergartens remain. They still must, and I quote, list medical accurate names for body parts, including genitals. All this for kids who do not know the names of animals in various colors. 12-year-old girls need to, and I quote, define vaginal, oral, and anal sex, unquote. 13-year-old boys must, and I quote, describe the steps to using external and internal condoms and dental dams, unquote. Would someone in this room care to explain to me how this sexualizing curriculum makes our children better citizens? When I show this material to local parents, they become outraged, understandably and rightly so. As a Catholic, I find this inappropriate instruction taught to innocent and vulnerable children to be highly offensive. Teaching and condoning sexual activity outside of marriage is against my religious tenets and those of many other religious communities. Sadly, District 7 opt-out policies are unable to provide parents with readily accessible lesson plans or specific dates of sex ed class instruction. So much for transparency. I find it interesting that teachers who do not wish to participate in sex ed instruction are protected by state policy from discrimination or job harassment and are required to undergo an accommodation process. Just exactly what is that? If this program is so great, why should guarantees be necessary? In God we trust.
All right. 2.3, financial report. Are there any questions? Oh,
Can you speak a little louder?
are there any questions about the financial report?
I'm very happy to see the breakdown of what money comes from what fund. I did think that maybe it was this month, not last, that the contingency was raised by $180,000.
I think we raised it by 235,000 if memory serves,
Well, I think
from
if-
600,000 in contingency to 835,000. Oh, from 600,000 to 830,000.
okay. Anyway, that's not reflected on this report, so that's agreed.
You'll be voting on a resolution later today.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay. 2.4, full faith and credit project report.
Tommy's here to answer any questions that the board might have about the work we're doing with the full faith and credit funds. But otherwise, we're just making sure the report's available to you each month. And if you have questions, Tommy is glad to answer any of them you have.
How come he's not smiling then?
See what you got.
Yeah. Okay. Personnel report. 0.5. 0.6 enrollment report.
Back over 5,700 as of today. Pretty excited about that. It's
0.7
terrific.
change in deputy clerk for the 23-24 school year.
So just the board make sure, yes, Carrie?
So from memory, I don't remember. I know we always start the year and it increases for a while before it starts the downward trend toward the end of the year. When is the usual peak?
I don't know about the usual peak, but our goal is to not have the downward trend that you're speaking of because Keith and his team over at GP Flex do such a magnificent job of capturing students that are contemplating dropping out or leaving the district. I cannot begin to tell you how many times either Tanya or I send Keith a registration for a student wanting to go to another online school, a charter school, and we send it to Keith and he's already set up a meeting and got the kids back in district. So at this point last year, GP Flex was at 60 students. Today we're at 150. We see that continuing to grow. Historically, when does our peak number come? End of October. So.
Okay.
A lot of pressure, Keith.
Okay, change in deputy clerk was up there.
And so just so this board remembers that Friday is Nefeli's last day in the district. And Sam Stegmiller will be replacing Nefeli as the business manager for the district. Okay. And Sam, do you have someone next to you you'd like to introduce to the board?
Absolutely. This is Ruth Nelson. She will be the new district accountant and is off to a great start. Much appreciated by me and everyone else here as well.
Welcome. 2.8 retirement from PERS. I'll let you talk about this one.
Oh, I'm on December 31st, I will begin my PERS retirement, which basically means I'm going to start receiving my retirement pay from the state of Oregon. Doesn't mean I'm leaving anywhere or going anywhere. So, right,
Moving on to 3.0 consent
everybody's
agenda.
dream, right?
Living the dream.
All items on the consent agenda may be approved by a single motion.
Member Schmidt moves that we accept the consent agenda.
Member Sable seconds.
Tanya? Is there discussion on that? Hearing none, Tanya, never roll call, please.
Member Richardson,
Yes.
member Brownell,
Yes.
member Dindal,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
member Sable.
Yes.
and Ford.
Yes. 4.0 reports, 4.1 Highland Elementary School, Early Learning Center. Will Nevin and Annie Blanchard.
And to get through security.
Good evening. As you know, we're diving into early learning. And there's been a convergence up at Highland this year of available facilities and somebody who's amazing and passionate about this work. Along with vision from Superintendent Sweeney, Director Satola, and we wanted to share out just some of the amazing things that are already happening and taking place, as well as what we found is some of the need in our community from a program like this. So it will not take you long to see what Anne Blanchard is the right person for this work, and I'm going to be quiet. So
all right, well, you guys should know me by now, because I'm kind of famous. All the kids are like, you were on the news, you were on the news. And yes, I was, but that's not what I'm great at. I'm great at teaching children. I had Chad's kiddos in my class, and that's my comfort. But family, I'm a family person, so I have 3 kids and so being able to do the work that is so needed in our community and being there to support our children through their families. I think in all the years that I've been teaching, I think every parent would say, or every teacher would say, I wish that we could have our families in here and just be with their children and see the support and see the learning that we're doing. And I get to do that every day. So although I'm nervous right now, it's nothing like teaching every day in a little lab with all my play groups and my families. So I just wanted to open up with a quote. Instead of trying to change the community to fit our model, we need to change our model to fit the community. We all know, I'm hoping I'm pushing the right button. See?
There you go.
Yay. So why are we doing the work that we're doing? So we're big why people. There has to be a purpose for why I'm working all hours of the night and I'm blowing up Susan's email box. But there is a huge need, not just in Josephine County, but right here in Grants Pass. So diving into the data here, the US Census data for 2023. Grants Pass poverty level under the age of 18 is 20.4%. The families that are considered rent burdened in our community, so rent burdened is a term used by our federal government to determine families that have to spend over 30% of their income on housing are considered to be in unstable housing and to have that burden of rent. So the majority of their income is going towards housing. So we're pushing right up against that 30% level. SNAP eligible families were at 49.3%. And this was really shocking, but this is why I'm here. So preschool enrollment is at 4.7%. So that's 96% of our 4 and 5-year-olds are not in a preschool program. And I'm standing right here to tell you that I can see it in the classrooms. I know our kindergarten teachers see it. I know every single teacher sees it and we feel it. Families need support and that's why we're doing what we're doing here. 43% of Grants Pass School District students are identified as CP participants. Elementary schools in the county have a high percentage of students with disabilities ranging from 8 to 25%. I've seen this in the classroom. Child comes in, they've never been in a preschool program. They're not on an IFSP. And we see them right from September. Yes.
Explain IFSP for the board, please.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So an IFSP is an individual family service plan. And it's when you're in an early learning program, they are able to provide services for our children. And it's kind of like an individual education plan that we have in the K-12 system, but it's for early learning. So many children are coming in with needs, but they're not on a plan because they're not in a program, because there's only so many programs out there right now. So it takes kindergarten teachers from the moment they come through the gate, we gotta kind of corral them. And then we've got work to do. So we put interventions in place, we document, and then probably by spring, we've got a plan in place if we're lucky, but mostly those kids aren't being serviced until 1st grade. So we're already a year behind. So I'm gonna get to this down the road, what we're doing now in our program to get ahead of this. Only 2% of our high needs children ages 3 to 5 receive the recommended dose and duration of services prior to elementary school. So that's our why. Our vision is to build an early learning program that promotes positive, healthy parent-child connections, access to community resources and early learning opportunities, and eventual preschool services. There's so much out there and available, but it's saturated. There's so much out there and parents are overwhelmed. So we get to serve as the liaison between our early learning communities, our families, and help bridge that gap. So our K-12 teachers aren't feeling that burden. We're still gonna feel that, but we're gonna help kind of soften that. So how are we doing that? So right now, I'm gonna use the analogy that the parable of the river, if you haven't heard of this. So 2 villagers, they're walking along the river and their babies just floating down the river. And they run over and they start pulling these babies out, pulling them out, because that's what we do. We want to save, we want to help, we're nurturing. And one villager is exhausted and he says, I'm going upstream. And the first villager says, why? And he said, I have to figure out who's throwing these babies in the water. That's what we're doing. We are not going to stop doing the awesome work that we do in our K-12 system. Teachers are just amazing. This is what we do, this is what we do, but we have to go upstream. We have to help these families. So that's why I'm here. I get to help, and Susan's in the trenches with me. Tim is so supportive, and thank you guys for allowing us to open this door. So I get to be the early childhood coordinator. I'm running play groups every week in my classroom with parents right there, grandparents, grandmas. And I get to have a parent advisory council. So last night I met with several parents from my group, got to listen to what do you need? What supports do you need? What barriers are in the way of getting to play group? And we just got to talk and connect. That was wonderful. I also met, Susan and I last week met with our early learning community. We had a member from Head Start. We had a nonprofit. We had a profit preschool there. We had a teacher from Gilbert Creek, our early intervention program, and we had someone from our Growing Together community. So all these early learning providers coming together to just say, yes, this needs to happen. How can we join forces? And what do we need to do? And so we talked about some training opportunities to empower our early learning community. So it doesn't just become a District 7 thing. It's all of us. It starts with our families, and we have to empower our families. We have to empower our early learning community. We're doing our Ready for Kindergarten classes, but we're doing them not in April like we've always done. We're pushing it forward, and we're teaching actually 3 sessions the way that the program was intended. So in October, we're offering 3 nights for families to come and receive these tools and the training and just intentional work with these families in October. Then we're going to do it again in January, and then we're going to do it again in April. And we're going to slowly start pushing out by April. We're going to be at their home school. So there are kids, and we're with our families. They're all of our kids together. And then we're slowly kind of doing the soft handoff as they get ready to go into kindergarten. We get to offer medical early intervention stuff. So today we did vision screening. We had Joy, our nurse, come in and do vision screening. Some children were scared of that. I think our school system, people are scared of the school system. People are scared of the healthcare system. I mean, that we have to realize that that is a genuine fear that people have. People are scared of the dentist. And so what can we do to bring those resources to our families? So I had a little girl today sit on her mom's lap while she got, her eyes checked. So hearing screening. So this is happening not in kindergarten, but an entire year earlier. We're also giving, an early exposure to literacy. Every child is leaving every week with a book. And today they were just like it was Christmas. Oh, they were lining up, and they all have to say goodbye to me. They'll say, do you want a hug, high five, or a handshake? And some just do a wave. But there was just this line, and I'm so thankful. Like, people are just in there taking pictures because it's just me. But someone sent me this picture, this line of these kids, and it was just wonderful. So lots of great things happening. That's how we're doing it. So I'm going to touch really quick on some real life things, and I do have permission to share these pictures. These are my amazing families. Families where it's at. Supportive and involved family is one of the most important factors that affect student achievement and academic performance. Research has shown time and time again that students with involved parents achieve higher grades, have better attendance, and have bigger, longer-term aspirations. So a lot of our families need help, and it's not families that you just point at and think, yeah, that family's struggling. Nope, I've met with every single one of those families, and the ones that come for extra help are not the ones that you would think. And so we're empowering our families. I have one child who's in my playgroup that struggled and has been in and out of every preschool and every daycare program in this town. Their family is just hopeless, and they came, both parents. And even a group of 5 was hard for this child. And I said, my only expectation is that you come back every week. So I said, what do we need to do to make it so you can come back? So I set up this student's time. Instead of coming from 10 to noon, this child comes in from noon to 1, and we have a one-on-one. I'm sitting there, we're doing all our nursery rhymes, we're doing all this learning with the child at this child's pace. And then I said, my goal is to let's increase his time. Like, let's have him come at 11:45 or 11:30. And then we'll integrate back in. And that's what we do in education. We don't just push him aside. Like, this is a child who's going to be at one of our schools next year. And so this family was, I'm not gonna cry in this meeting, but it was really moving to see that, that they know already before they're even in our schools that we're not giving up on them. Okay. Now, friendship, play. I'm learning all about preschool. So, play is so important. I think, it helps develop that healthy brain. It helps that communication, all those social skills that children don't know, they're learning through play. And I've had a student who mom asked me, and our play group said, are you guys gonna be doing this more? Is this running all year? And I could just read into her anxiety. And I said, what do you really want to know? Can I just come every day? Can I do this all year? And I said, well, we're doing this all year. Like, you're stuck with me. And she said, well, we just found out his preschool. They said he needs more of a play-based preschool because he's really struggling, and they can't accommodate him. And I said, well, in the 4 hours that I've had, and this is week 2, this child is playing at the carpet and having conversation and sharing toys. And that is what we want to do as a district, is we need to reframe what preschool and early learning is. It's not learning your ABCs. It's not counting and writing your numbers correctly. That's our kindergarten curriculum. I can name every single standard in the kindergarten curriculum. You know, letter names and sounds, writing our numbers 0 to 20, counting to 100. That's what we do in kindergarten. But we have children who are coming in who are not ready because they cannot access their learning because they're dysregulated and they need support. And that's what we're doing. We're teaching all those pre-kindergarten skills right here. These little kiddos are they're learning the pincher grasp. They're not writing their numbers with pencil and paper. They're using little tweezers and they're counting little pom-poms, and we're encouraging fret formation. We have rock crayons. How cool is that? But they're learning how to hold pencils correctly without giving them pencils yet. Literacy. Every single day we read stories, we're rhyming, we're having fun with language. That listening comprehension comes before reading comprehension. And that happens from having conversations every single day in our playgroup. We sit down, and my rule at the end is we all play with toys together, and we all have to be on the ground. So we all have to be on the ground together. And then the other rule is we have to put one toy away before we take the other one out. So I want to clean everybody's mess up. But so we sit there and we're just talking and we're visiting and we're having conversations and connecting. We read The Squirrel That Squabbled today, and we learned about what squabbles meant. And we're learning the seasons. We did our season song. And fall, you know, another name for fall was autumn. So all of those rich language skills are happening. They're not just the typical way that, you know, it has been in school, but these kids are going to be so ready to learn next year. Mealtime. So research shows that children who share family dinners 3 or more times per week. And I know as we get busier and our lives get more scheduled, and you're in sports and you're in dance and music programs, that's hard to make happen. But we together every single day at playgroup, the children have a job. We pass out napkins. We ask, yes, please, no, thank you. And it's really hard for the parents. We had little oranges last week, the little mandarin oranges. And I said, here's the deal, parents. You're not going to peel it for them. And they were like, oh my goodness. And one little boy just annihilated his orange. And we were giggling. And I said, I know that was really hard for you. And I said, we're going to give him another one. And so they learned how to bite it with their teeth and get it started. And then we talked about using your nail. And then the second week, they were all peeling the oranges. Now we're having competitions to see who can peel it in one giant peel with as many, you know, not as many pieces. So families that eat together are less likely to be overweight, are more likely to eat healthy foods. Today, one of my students brought in ground cherries from his yard. We were talking about things growing, and every single one of the kids at least held it. Some kids tried it, some smelt it, some felt it. I mean, all those different senses, and that's how you get your children exposed to new foods. Children and families that eat together have better relationships with their parents. Family connections increased by 50% when you have 7+ meals a week, 39% 5+ meals a week, then 25% 3 meals per week. We always like to remind one of our girls if she wants to go to a game, I'm like, oh, you're missing out on connection time. You're at 39%. Health screenings, talked about this a little bit. So we're working with this few community health care. They're gonna come in and do some dental screenings. We already have done, these are real life pictures of things that are happening already. We did hearing screening, we've done vision screening. The report is printed out right in my classroom. The parents got the report. And the children are seeing, like, I had to sit down and do it so they could see it wasn't really this big scary thing. And these were some of our families' hopes and dreams for their children when they signed up for playgroup. You'll see friends really big, learning, group, parent help. You don't see ABCs and numbers and, the most error points or whatever parents that we come in thinking our children have to be performing at this level. So I just want to finish with, this is my favorite part of playgroup. Every playgroup starts with a circle and we end with a circle. And we have a topic. Last week it was nursery rhymes. We talked about our favorite animal. This week we talked about our favorite article of clothing for the seasons. And then we finish and we pass the apple and we all say what our favorite part of playgroup was. And it has been, we've been in playgroup for 6 hours, because this week will be 8 hours by the end of the week, but 6 hours, and watching these kids share and talk in complete sentences, and children that were passing are now comfortable speaking up and saying, my favorite part was trying the ground cherries that our friend brought. And then they pass it to their parents and their parents have to share. And so one little girl talked, and then her mom almost like ripped the apple out of her hands. She was like, I'm just so excited that so-and-so just talked. And it was just this moment where, like, we can't always see our family's pain, but they can always feel our love. And that is really powerful, that we're going to come with different backgrounds. We're going to come with different viewpoints, but we can all agree that every single one of these kids needs love, and they're getting it in this program. And I am so excited to be pioneering this with our district. And I feel so proud to work for a district that feels like this is where the power is and what we're doing. So thank you.
You got questions? Got a couple.
Go ahead, Joe. Yeah, we had a strategic planning meeting this afternoon, and we were talking about math and language skills in terms of meeting benchmarks and so forth. And one of the detriments, one of the problems that get in the way of that is the child who comes from the family who really doesn't have the active parent, or the parent is absent. And my question to you is, how do you connect with those families that are almost dysfunctional? What's your process of getting them into this program? How do you find them?
We're all dysfunctional. I'm being honest, because the families that I've met with are not those families that you just stated, but those are ones that are asking for help. I have had separate meetings with families that come on the days where I'm not doing playgroups. I have connected with our early learning providers to see, okay, who are the families that need to be here? And I've done home visits before. I'm not afraid to get down on their level. I feel like there is I'm not going to dress like this for every playgroup, because it's intimidating to some families that didn't come from an environment where they felt worthy, or maybe they were the child in school that didn't have nice clothes. Like, I came from that environment. I wore my brother's, corduroy hand-me-downs. Like, I didn't want to wear those, but that's what I had to wear. And so I feel like we first have to connect with them on a human level, and they have to feel safe with us. And once we have that relationship, week 2, I started getting messages from these families. And it's this family, stay-at-home mom, 2 working parents. This family is, struggling over here. So I just feel like connecting on that human level and doing what we need to do to connect.
I guess what I'm really asking is how do you identify where the children are out there that you can bring into the program? In other words,
Yeah,
if you have a child who really has no parent that's present and might be being raised by the sister or something like that. And I totally agree with you. I think I love the idea and I love what you're doing. I totally support it. My question is for that extreme family that may be off the radar.
yeah.
How do you find them?
Well, we're figuring that out, because right now, so much of it is word of mouth. I mean, you guys have seen my face probably this month more than ever. And our program has been out there, so I feel like it's a lot of word of mouth. We're still getting families signing up for the play groups. We're connected with options. We're connected with our Gilbert Creek services. And we all just know lots of people. And I've been connecting with all elementary school principals. They know who they are. That I keep pounding them, like, how do I get into this apartment building? Like, how do I connect with this family? What are some families that are in your school that are struggling? And what's this neighborhood that I need to tap into? So there's really no limit to where I feel like I'm willing to go to connect with these families. I think it's just going to take time. I think the intention is there, and making sure that we're all connected and communicating. I know that a couple of our kindergartners that starts kindergarten and didn't end up staying in kindergarten, parents were like, we can't handle this, we're pulling them out, it's too much. I know in our principal meetings, they know if those children, I would rather have them in my play group than them not in school. So have them come for a 2-hour play group. Let's just have them be in here with us and learn some routines and learn how to just kind of have some pre-ready kindergarten skills. So there's all that stuff happening.
We're
You
also
know?
working with other agencies to
Yeah.
get
Okay,
birth
that's my
records.
question. Okay.
So something that we have not had partnerships previous to this year. So we're working with Asante, Assist-U, and
Care.
All Care to get birth records. So at least we know when they were born. We have an address for at least where they were born. That doesn't mean that's where they are now, but we've done
We're trying to
mailing, right? So we're working on that, and then a lot of boots on the ground, like you said, going to apartment complexes.
Okay, so you're making it to find the lost children,
Yes.
Yes.
but that's my question.
Say, is DHS a potential partner or somebody you communicate with for some of
Yes,
these lost
yeah,
kids?
we have. Yep, and we sent our playgroup flyers, our ready flyers. I mean, we've just about plugged in everywhere. I think it's just gonna take time and just kind of like our families that come into our system. That we identify this family and then they have a sibling coming up and then, end up having all your kids or, so we eventually get them.
I just want to say, thank you, Annie and Susan and Nevin and Tim and anybody else that's involved in this. I think this is great. I keep hearing about challenges that we're having in kindergarten. And a lot of you know about that. And so I think this is really great. I'd like to know more about like the background behind it, the funding. I'm reading 3 days a week, but I'm hearing you say 4 days a week. Like, I'm just curious more of the nuts and bolts. That doesn't have to happen right now, but I'm curious. So I'd love more information sometime.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gary. I was just gonna say thank you for the presentation, and I think this is really important work, and obviously you have the energy and the passion to make it very effective and awesome program. You may have already said it, but what is the capacity of this? How many kids ultimately, you could handle at this point, and where are we at right now for the number of kids?
Okay, so I can handle a lot, but we don't want to overwhelm our
Well, the
family.
fire marshal.
Yeah. So we do have some room. We capped it at about 15 just to start out because there is that. We don't want to have the adverse effect of all these children come in and then they're overwhelmed and then you create that trauma around. We really want this to be a warm welcome. And then like that student that's doing a 12 to 1 o'clock play group, we're going to slowly add some more kids to that. So we're yeah, so 45, 15 per session. See, this is like we confirmation right here. So we have 15 per session, and I would say our Tuesday group, we're at about 10. Wednesday's our lighter group. We're at probably about 4 or 5 right now. And then Thursday, we're at 11 families. And that feels really good. I feel like 15 would be probably max. Because what I did notice with one of the kids, as we were passing the apple around the circle, that one week when the 2 kids were sick, the student was more willing to share. And then when more students were in, he just kind of shut down a little bit.
So 15, so that'd be about 30 people with a parent or a guardian with the child.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so that's a lot of bodies in there to.
sure.
And one thing that I will mention is that the parents are there, but like last night at my parent advisory meeting, one of the moms just said it was so nice that he's becoming more comfortable so she could step away. Like the first week, nobody made coffee and tea. The second week, like people were back there like, oh, I'm gonna have one of these biscotti. I'm like, yes, please, because I've been eating them all. And then week 3, she's back here like really connecting with another mom. And at the meeting last night, she said, I just felt like I'm not momming alone. And that's not an apartment complex that I'm knocking on. That's someone that's in this room right now, not literally. But I just feel like, you know,
Yeah, thank you. And I brought up DHS and you're probably already all over it, but in the park system, we work closely with DHS because we have families that live in the park. And sometimes I've seen a school bus come in to pick up kids in the park and so, you know, I'm sure you probably are, but if you're not, maybe DHS's resource, really finding those hard to find families that are kind of off the radar, living in situations that are not ideal, but they're survivors, you know,
yeah,
and there's a lot of kids that could benefit from that. So
absolutely.
I think that's great. Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, sorry, Gary.
45 was the number currently. So what's our capacity?
Facility wise.
So I'm gonna say we got at least 320 preschool kids out there. So if this was a program that was gonna make us hit all these strategic planning targets, how much capacity would we need to have? Would we need it for all 320 preschoolers that are out there? You know, half of them.
That
Well-
might be at that meeting. You might come up with that when you said come back to the funding thing. I think, yeah, we're. Mhm.
Right.
We haven't got, we're building the plane
As we're
and
planning.
with flying. So, you know, I haven't done that sort of detailed analysis of, you know, exactly numbers and things like that. But if you're just off the cuff right now, I'd say 50%.
And we do have a projection because of our partnership with All Care. We do have a projection birth to 5, how many 0-age children and age 1 and 2. So we can see a projection of where these kids are at. And at our meeting last week, we heard that term COVID baby and from the Head Start director. And we all have heard that term, but I didn't really know what it meant. She said they went to a training in Phoenix and they talked about how the doctors were saying that during COVID, moms that were pregnant had higher cortisol levels, and that was transferred into utero. And so these 3-year-olds that are coming to us, we know how many there are, we just have to find them. They are going to have high impulse control, they're going to be very dysregulated. And so I'm so thankful we're doing this work now because it's going to be so needed in a couple of years to do that kind of work.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That's great.
Excellent. Thank you, Annie. Okay, 4.2, the DARE program, Officer Crown Doctor.
Yeah, Officer Brown Salter is here in follow up to some questions you had about DARE. He's going to give you an overview of the program you have in your handouts, the middle school lessons, the 10 lessons, but Officer Brown Salter will explain it a little bit more and where we're going.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ken Fraunfelter. I'm one of our 2 school resource officers, police officer with the Grants Pass Police Department. We have two, obviously, one's a tall one, one's a short one. I'm not the tall one. We're gonna talk about DARE, like Trish said, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with what DARE is, there's a program that was started back in 1983 based off of the drug problems that were occurring in inner cities and larger cities. In Los Angeles specifically is where it was started by Police Chief Daryl Gates at the time. He got together with the Los Angeles Unified School District. They came together with this program that would go into the schools and be taught by a police officer because of the reliability that the police have, the experience that they have in seeing what it is that drugs do to families, to people individually, and just in groups and in society in general. So what they did is they get together with the school district, and they figure, let's have the police officer go inside these schools and deliver this to the kids, this education. And at the time, those of us that were around at the time in the 80s, we remember Nancy Reagan talking about just say no, right? And that was easy to do. Here, the commercial with the A, hey, this is your brain on drugs, and we'd see a fried egg, right? Well, things have changed a little bit. We have a little bit more of a problem today than we did back then. We have drugs that are de facto legal. We have people that are with impunity doing drugs out in the open, in front of their own children, in fact. And so it becomes a more generational issue that we're dealing with. So how do we combat that issue? And how do we deal with that in our schools with the kids that we have actually able to speak to? And the question that comes up is, why do we do that? And at what age should we do that for? And for our school district, for the resources that we do have, it was kind of spoken about, we talked about it, that bringing this into the school would be great if we could do it at a younger age. However, we don't have the resources for that. So let's say K through 5. We don't have the resources for that because we have so many of those students. So the proposition was brought up, why don't we try to do it for 7th graders? Because we have one certified police officer, which is what the curriculum requires. You have to be a certified to teach this class police officer, which I happen to be. I happen to be certified K through 12, but that certification goes off of the set curriculum that DARE sets out for their national program. By taking that and saying, with the resources we have one certified DARE officer to teach this program. 7th grade would be great because we can do it between the two schools, between North and South. And speaking with Robert and Barrett, they're all for it, bringing it into their students, their 7th graders, by bringing it into the health classes. The health classes could take me 1 day a week, one period for the whole day. Not one period for the whole day, I mean, rephrase that. 1 day taking each of the periods, right? And there would be several, like at North, there'd be maybe 2 days that we would be doing that, and at South, there'd be 2 days of me doing that. That takes one SRO out of the school for 4 days. We need, and it's a 10-week long program. So having one of our SROs out of commission for that time is kind of a detriment to us. So if I were to take that and put that into just 5th graders or 4th graders, we would have one SRO for the entire district for entire 10 weeks. It's not fair to everybody that we limit our SROs that way. And not just for us and what we could accomplish, but the needs of the schools. So bringing it into the kids, showing them that not just is it just say no to drugs, because that is absolutely a problem and that is something that they can do. But it's more of making good decisions as far as alcohol, tobacco, cigarettes, how to make good decisions in not bullying, how to make good decisions in life in general, and just how to be better people in how they interact with their peers, with their their teachers, their family. And when we look at it that way, as opposed to just saying no to drugs, there's so much more that we can actually offer these kids. Now, in the classroom, what we would be doing is we would be presenting them, they would have a book, workbook that would look just like this. They would go through it, then they would have a homework packet that would look like this. And each one of these pages here would be a homework. They would take it home, and then the next week we would come back to it. They would have their book. I could say, hey, pull out your books, pull out your homework. Did everybody take care of that? And then we would go through it. There's videos in which they would watch. I think there's 4 or 5 videos for the 10 weeks. And it has actors that are kids their age. Now, the acting is not of any kind of Academy Award worthiness. However, it's enough that they can understand the message that's coming across to them. And it would facilitate conversation, not only with us, but at home, where they would say, well, yeah, we talked about this, but what about this? You know, it could flow into all these other conversations, such as vaping and alcohol and bullying, and getting into various conversations that they would be able to use the resources that we teach them in DARE and how to go about being just better citizens that we need and that we're trying to produce through our schools. So, I guess without any further ado, that's a lot of what I have. There's so much more I could say, but I have such a finite amount of time to talk about it. However, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We've ordered materials and such. We anticipate they'll get started in Q2 at the
Correct.
middle school. So if you have any questions.
Officer Thompson, thank you for being here. Super excited about this. I've been talking to an SRO over in Central Point about this quite a bit. He's been doing it longer, but I'm sure he's not as good. So he's over there. So anyways, the reason why I had brought up age and when this starts was based on a conversation I had with him about relationship. And it's a lot easier to build a relationship with 5th graders than it is with 7th graders who have already kind of maybe developed some perspectives, thoughts, and opinions about police officers or just life in general. So that's a future conversation. I know this is scalability and size and resources and all that, but that's one of the reasons why I've mentioned that a few times, is that makes a lot of sense to me.
And I could address that just really succinctly, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I've been an SRO now for 1.5 years. This is my 2nd year doing SRO. The 6th graders that were there last year that are 7th graders now, they were coming off of COVID. We talked about COVID on our last presentation. Those kids, they hadn't been in school. A lot of them hadn't been in school. They were trying to figure out how to regulate. I had gone into schools and I developed a very good relationship with a lot of those kids. Now at 7th graders, they're not afraid of me. They go down the hallways searching me out, high five me to do whatever they need to do. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying that this is what I've noticed. Those kids, I have a fairly good relationship with them. And I agree, I would love to get it down into the 5th graders. However, right now, because of resources, 7th grade is good, but we've developed such a solid program and relationship with those kids that I don't think that it would be much of an issue. And I think you could talk to either Robert or Barrett in that regard, as far as where the relationship is with the kids there.
Awesome. Yeah. With that in mind, do you have to be an SRO to do the education, to be certified and to step into the classroom? Or is there any way we can get creative, as you are aware, or anybody else in the room?
With you don't have to be an SRO, but you have to be a police officer.
Okay.
And so the credibility issue is what they're trying to fight as well.
Just trying to think outside the box. You know, resources are finite. And then also, how much? That's a question I've asked them, and I know told them to eventually get to that, but what are we talking about?
For
Remember, you and I talked about it.
if we were to add an additional, it would be more than dollars and cents, I think we'd be talking about. I think last year it was around $114,000 or something along those lines. That's just the dollar amount, but that doesn't mean that we would be able to immediately fill that vacancy, because we have staffing shortages with the police right now. We have a traffic unit that we need to fill up. We have patrol situations that we need to fill up. We have a detective position that we need to fill. All those would need to be backfilled before we add another position and say, okay, because then we would still have to hire those folks. That's a good year and a half of training before somebody's actually usable. Now, you wouldn't be getting a fresh off the boat new person, but you get a used model experience for, right? But that person would need to, his position would need to be filled by that new person. So it is, we don't have a lot of people breaking down the door right now to be cops, unfortunately. We do have what used to be 150 people would come to testing processes for 3 positions. We now maybe have 15 to 20, 25. And it's hard to do. The people, they're not finding law enforcement to be that great of a draw because it's sometimes scary, or there's a they're making more money being YouTube influencers or something like this. So there's a lot of other variable factors that are involved. But I'd like to say it was just the dollars and cents, but unfortunately there's more to it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Officer, sir. I've noticed that at football games, the students like you. You got a lot of trust built up.
I try to have fun with it.
I had a question, do they have to be an active peace officer in order to do the training, or can retirees?
You know, that's a good question. They would have to go through the certification.
If their DPSST isn't expired?
Correct, yeah,
And
so if we had a retired officer, well, it's in good standing. It's possible, and that would be a question, because DARE provides that certification with, I guess, the National Education Board or whatever, and they would be able to say whether or not. I know they like to have an officer who would be wearing a uniform, the same uniform in which they would present to the kids, but I don't think it would be much to get somebody to come back and do something like that, so it may very well be possible.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's something I can ask about.
well, I think it's probably worth asking. I hope that can grow. Your ratio is for real. Your ratio of one SRO out for every 4 days. I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But hope that can, if there's anything we could do to help with that,
Yeah,
or me.
we would like it, but I'll tell you, I will do everything I can to respond to everything that comes my way as I'm doing that, trying to double dip that, so. I'm used to stressing out because it's what required.
I did, this is a little different. I have this lens I've been using lately, which is do no harm. So one question I'd have about the program, are there any kids that shouldn't be learning this material? In fact, it would actually be detrimental to them if they were presented that.
I don't think so. Then again, that's just me. I think what you're looking at is there are kids from all backgrounds, all religions, races, creeds, everything that would be going through this. And unfortunately, it's a problem that all of us are dealing with because we're trying to build good humans, not good this, that, and the other. Now, if you can bring a kid that struggles because of generational drug use or problems, and they come in here and they see that there's another way, you give them some more different lenses to look through. Or you bring in kids that have never seen this before, and now you're showing them this is what drugs do. Oh my gosh, it's a totally new world to them. They've not seen that. Once again, you're giving them a different set of lenses to look through. You are just showing them not just drugs, but you're showing them how to make good choices because they're going through struggles, because we all know that elementary, middle, and high school is difficult. Everything is new every single year. And as these kids are going through, they're dealing with bullies, they're dealing with peer pressure, they're dealing with, and now we're dealing with drugs, we're dealing with sex, we're dealing with all these things that they're just, they maybe don't need to be dealing with at all. And they see it maybe at home. You're giving them another option. You're giving them a way to see a different route that they can go. And the way that I would present it is not so much robotic that they say, you have to follow this scenario here, but that they would, yes, you'd have these scenarios, but then we would have conversation about, here's things that I've seen as a police officer in my 17 years of doing this. Here's things that you can do. Here's another way of looking at things. And you're just giving them more options in which to find their path. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been involved with DARE since probably 1988. And we found in the 3 schools that had DARE that I worked with, it was very successful and very well received by the students. First of all, I appreciate very much that this is going to happen for District 7. But it does bring up a bigger conversation. As we all know, drug overdose is the biggest killer of youth up to 35 years old. Bigger than any other social issue out there.
Yeah.
It's drug use that's creating the problems. And I'm troubled that we really start that education in the 6th grade, 5th grade. I appreciate Mr. Nelson's comments because we'll focus on something that Mr. Nelson talked about with kindergartners, thinking that they're ready for it, but we won't touch on the most important problem with young people in terms of self-destruction.
Right.
And that's drug use. And I think, again, I bring this up, I brought it up at another meeting as well. I think we have to have a bigger conversation of when we really start the education of young people on every drug,
I would agree. with you.
including the legal ones that the state
Yeah.
has promoted. And kindergarten is not too young for them to learn it. So anyhow, that's a bigger
No, I
conversation.
agree with you, and I think, the trickling effect, because obviously the kindergartners aren't gonna know everything about, but they do know an orange pill bottle and how not to touch it, or something along those lines, right? And I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, we're at the,
But it's not you. It's
Yeah.
this is
I
an
would be
education system.
happy to build that program if it came down to it, we had the ability and the means. But yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Well, my point is we need to re-look at health education, not rely on the police department to do this for us.
Yeah, we're happy to help. We're happy to be there with you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree 100%. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Ken, you didn't bring any stickers for us?
You want a second?
Jeff Fox, way to contact. We have a way to. You speed really fast out of the parking lot, you'll do the whole.
Yeah. Did you want my card?
Yeah, that's great.
Thank
you. I don't know if I have enough for all of you, but.
All right.
I'm close. I won't.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
There
Appreciate
you
it.
go. I'll give you one.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
You don't have to do push-ups for these or anything like that. Cassie knows. Thanks for serving our community. You're welcome.
Okay, 4.4 EL Family Night. Director Cantola.
So Susan's jealous, so I get to present this year, but she did a great job of getting my real program off the ground and running with it. So appreciate Susan and really appreciate these two gentlemen. So this is Jorge Padilla, and he will talk to us about the elementary programs. Tim Bartel will talk to us some about the secondary programs or EL programs. Curious. Give us something to think about. How many different languages do graders in so anyway, we had an EL night last Thursday, I think it was, at the Wild River. Something that Susan started for our district last year, and we had approximately 55, 60 people. We topped 110 family members last Thursday night. We actually may have outgrown the venue. And so really excited about that. So our EL program exists at these different schools, at Lincoln Elementary School, at Redwood Elementary School, at South Middle School, and then of course at Grants Pass School. I'll let you, Mr. Jorge, you want to introduce your folks here real quickly?
Yeah, I presented to the board before and I'll say it again. I think I have the best job in the district. Amy and I are kind of close, and I think she has a lot of passion and people what she do now, but I get to work with a lot of the families that are brand new to the United States or brand new to the area, where English is not the only spoken language at home, or no English is spoken at home. And the way we do it, our program is we have students that qualify for services based on the language survey. And if they live on the 2-6 zip code side, they qualify for services and want to take part. they get to go to Lincoln, and my assistant there on the left, I'm gonna say Andrews. And then if they are in a 2-7 zip code, they get to go to Redwood, and Marisol Espinoza is my assistant there. And what's really exciting is Marisol is actually an ex-Yale student from our district. So, yes. So, yeah.
And we split Jorge in half, because it's at this time that Lincoln at this time there. So. Secondary crew.
Yep, I'm also split in half, and I have to disagree with Jorge that he has the best job in the district. I think they got the second best job. I have the actual best job in the district. Love our. Same thing, we work with our learners or families, our students of families who maybe speak more than one language at home. My assistants are amazing. They do so much to support our kids, but at the middle school itself, I have Jennifer Torres Brown and Danielle Torres. And then at high school, I have Christina Murillo and Leslie Islam Cruz.
And they actually do a good job of keeping me in line too. So Christina emails me at least once a week just to make sure I'm behaving myself. So just some numbers, maybe you could just quickly give us what is inactive, what is former, so forth and so on. Then.
Sure. An active student is a student that is actively receiving EL support from either Jorge or myself. Former student would be a student who has exited the EL program because they tested at a level of English proficiency that is equivalent to that of a native English speaker. A monitored student is a student who is in their first 5 years out of the ESL program. So we try to just keep an eye on them and make sure that they're doing okay without the support they get on their EL program. And then our recent arrivers are students who basically have arrived to in most cases, arrived to the United States within the last 4 years. So in many cases, these are the students we have that come with little to no English, and Jorge and I work very closely with those kids there to make sure they're supported as they adjust to new school. Thank you.
So we do, and we won't, I know, big slide, lots of words, just the point of this slide is what I appreciate, some of the things that they do is they're always asking for input on their programs, even at the family night at the end, we ask for input on, hey, what can we do better? What's working really well for you? But you can see there's a lot of positive things at Lincoln Elementary School that our parents, these are parent things that they say, like, I love the fact they like it, they know that the staff knows the child's name, how hard it must be to memorize so many names. I mean, just really cool things. Same thing at Redwood. And I'm not even gonna attempt to read that because I am way too old to read that font. So, but just the point is they do a great job of getting input and feedback on their program. I appreciate them. So, talk about junior high club.
Sure, and I think Danny mentioned this, but all the things we're showing today, this is information we shared with the families at our family night. And just with the intention of trying to build a community, let families know ways that they and their children can get involved in different district events. So this was one that we shared about. It's a new club that was started by a student at South Middle School. And it was great to see her stand up and get a round of applause from everybody. She was excited about that at our event. But they're still kind of figuring out the direction of this club, what they're gonna do, but it's very focused on like volunteering, community service. And I think part of what they're gonna do is we do have a new student who's a new English learner. They're gonna act as like student ambassadors for that student, give new students somewhere to turn to if they need help or they need a student they can trust or ask for whatever it is that they're needing. So this club, we started last year at the very end of the year, and we're just kind of relaunching this year. And Metro Club is high school. Christina and Leslie are my assistants at the high school run the Metro program. They could do a much better job of talking about it than I can. But basically it's where the main goal is fundraising for student scholarships. And it's a student or it's a student group that is there to support just Latino Hispanic students.
Yeah, so not this Saturday, but the Saturday before, the Metro Club hosted an event at the high school. They were hoping they have, well, I think people show up. And they had a couple of hundred people from the community show up at the event. So any pictures of me with churros and greatly exaggerated. Just a little more about the Magic Club. But we also do community events, and so this is one of the things that we.
Yeah, so here's another event that we started last year. Heather Ransom, who's an amazing teacher at South, retired last year, sadly. Is still involved with this, but it began, we had some brand new students last year, Spanish speaking only. And Heather Ransom's intro to sci-fi class took an end of the year trip to Southgate to watch a movie. And Heather, right as the movie started, Heather and my assistant Jennifer were kind of talking, and they stood up. They stopped the movie, and then they went and talked to the manager to see if there was a way that they could put Spanish subtitles on the movie, because our students, they were there, and while they could probably enjoy watching the movie, maybe just not understanding everything that was going on. So out of that field trip was born this idea to host a night, or it's a morning at the movie. Early morning, once a month, just basically for those members of our community who maybe they don't speak English fluently, would benefit from having something else on the movie. So it's a free event. Heather Ransom was instrumental in getting sponsors from around the community to help fund this for pay the movie theater, and our turnout has been increasing each month, especially now that we're back, the school's back in session, so. Yeah, kids love it.
And we just put this up here. We were hoping Annie was still in the room. One of the things that we did at the event, and you'll see in the pictures, we had ages 0. So we had brand new babies at the event, all the way up to high school age students. But I would guess, just off the top of my head, that we probably had 20 people there that would be eligible for the early learning. And so they did do a great job of going through what opportunities there are at early learning. So when you're asking how do you reach families and things like that, that's one of the ways is when we do presentations and things, we're continuously putting it out in front of people. We also shared that we will be having our data walk, community data walk, October 17th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Lincoln Elementary School, and you all will be there, and I hope. And it's also all the Tide members are invited, so we also invited all the members, people of the community that came to that meeting to come to that as well. We're really excited about this. Want to explain what this is? This is cool.
Sure. Sean after, oh, she left, of course. But we, so Kara Rhodes, when she was here, she got Grants Pass High School going with, literacy, basically an award given to students who demonstrate proficiency in 2 or more languages before high school graduation. So the families at this event, many of their children, the students that were there, might be interested in this opportunity. So again, just the event was an opportunity for us to share lots of information with families that might be important to them or something they want to know. So, and I would say that each year at the high school that we've had this, we've been having more and more students earn this seal of biliteracy, which is an actual, I think, a gold seal. It goes on the diploma itself. So it's a pretty cool award.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's much more than just being able to speak more than one language. So really cool. Just quick information about our district, and this is one of the things I'm so proud of these two and our whole team and the whole team at all the schools for doing this. So we keep track of freshman on track data. So our District 7, our English learners are 78.3. Oh, this is sorry. Gosh, wrong slide. 78.3% of them are on track to graduate. And District 7 overall, it's 74.6% on track to graduate. And then this is really cool. Tim.
And this is, again, we wanted to just share with parents how we're doing this at Grants Pass High School, where we have our interdependent program. So what you're looking at is basically just our different subgroups, subpopulations, and how we compare to the state overall. So of This is our 2021-22 5-year graduation rate. So it's the most recent that we have. And, you know, with that EL group, it's only 7 students that we're looking at, so it's maybe not enough to draw a conclusion. They did have 6 or 7 make it to graduation. Former EL students, so those are students that have ever been part of a English learner program. We're pretty much right on par with what the state's doing there. As a whole, building, Hispanic Latino students are graduation rate is higher than the state. And then just for a comparison, how we're doing all students in the school, we're doing a little better than the state average. But this also to see how the students we work with frequently are doing compared to the rest of the school and the state. We're hanging in there, I think. Obviously, my goal is that we get every single student across the finish line, and we're not there yet, but I think we're doing pretty good.
Thanks.
A couple of pictures. Sorry, Robert. So one of the things we did, had a raffle. This is so cute, unbelievable. This is the prize that this young lady picked out for her winning raffle ticket. So she works at school. So very cool. We want to invite you next year. We'll make sure it'll be the 3rd annual year, but Debbie came, Tim came, Michelle was able to come, Christine and Robert, and it means a lot to the families when they see you. And if we're looking for opportunities for feedback and be able to talk to parents, we've got about 70, 80 parents right there. Hey, how we doing? And a great opportunity to.
I just want to say I had a late night of work and I rolled in just in time to see the big bus leave.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed. I missed it.
So, and anyway, just a picture so you can get it there. That is a packed house. We truly have outgrown. So, and it's a tribute to the relationships that these two and the rest of their staff have established with their families. That on a Thursday night at 5:30, we can get that many people to come to a school event. So they're grateful. And I don't know if you have any questions. I think that's slide.
Look like ish, you have about 5% of our students are in the EL program in the district.
Yeah. Think about it.
10% would be 507.
We're talking like from the time that they're active all the way to forms.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because your numbers, active, former, and whatever, only look like 5%, and I think we're 15, 16, maybe 17%.
That's our Hispanic population.
Right.
And then.
But this is just language,
Right.
right?
And I can include the calendar. As well, not just the Hispanic ones.
So not all Spanish.
Correct.
How many different languages would you guess?
With the elementary, we have Spanish, Chuukese, Chinese, Mandarin Chinese. And we've had influx of other ones, Pakistani and Armenian, I think we have for a while.
Currently in the program in second year, we have Spanish, Thai, Mandarin, and Filipino.
Oh, and Hindi.
Bulgarian.
Bulgarian.
We have
Bulgarian.
Member Brownell, so the picture really doesn't show it, but I was impressed by how many families were there. You know, a lot of children, they're kind of hidden because they're not as tall, maybe.
The kids were way in the back by the door.
You know, sometimes it's the children who can speak the language to translate to the parents and but that impressed me that the whole family was involved.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you for all the hard work you do. All right, 5.0 superintendent report.
All right.
1 Division 22.
Yeah, you have in your packet, and I emailed you this information yesterday, so you can take a look at it. Our Division 22 standards. Those are all the requirements we have from the state of Oregon to run, that we're required to meet to run schools. And if we fail in some of those categories, we got to write a comprehensive plan. That's how we're going to meet it. I'm happy to report to the board that we have determined that we have met all Division 22 standards for the upcoming year. So.
Yay.
I had just one question, Tim.
Yes,
On the assessment of essential skills, diploma requirements, I think it was page 3, waive, what was the circumstances of the waivers
that's a statewide waiver.
because of
COVID.
COVID? Yeah,
Yes.
that's kind of what I thought, but. Yes.
Anything else on Division 22? All right, I'm gonna ask that the board delete policy IJA. This is confidentiality and counseling one was removed by OSBA. And it really is all taken care of in policy IJ. Is that correct? IJ? Yep. So. We're removing that. And then I believe you have a link to some fundraising that we want to do for the PAC. Yes, I've seen that in your packet. The question I have for the board tonight is we would like to do some work. You look at the third page here in your pack in this set of where we want to make sure that the board is okay that if a business donates $50,000, we would put a sign up in the one wing of the auditorium saying that they've sponsored a wing. And it tells you there, it'd be a wall plaque 24 inches by 12 inches. It'd have the name of the business displayed as Platinum Community Partner, so forth. If you're a front row sponsor for $20,000, we would put your plaque on the front row saying that you participated. I want to make sure that then you see on the back of that page, there's some platinum, gold, silver bonds and copper partner levels. I want to make sure the board is okay with putting corporate names in the auditorium as we do fundraising events for the refurbishment of the PAC. With our goal being to eventually get close to a couple $1 million for the refurbishment.
Actually, with the time that the plaques would be up in perpetuity, or is there? At some point?
The discussion is to set a set time. But I don't know that the committee has decided whether that's 5 years or 10 years, but it's not
Yeah.
planned to be 50.
So 50,000 could buy you 10 years of that, of having that recognition.
Correct.
Whose idea was that?
It really was the committees.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, so what's the gal's name from
Melissa Vieri from Evergreen.
Evergreen has really been spearheading that part of the fundraising.
Yeah, Member Schmidt, question, Tim.
Yeah.
When you go through this is kind of like a capital campaign fundraising sort of thing where you're
Yes.
trying to raise a lot of money to do something. Do you set aside a certain percentage of it for endowment for future upkeep?
So we have a lot of conversations with the folks at Redwood Foundation about doing that, and they are working to set up an endowment through their organization. It's Redwood, right? Four-way,
Yeah.
sorry. The four-way used to be Redwood? Am I just, okay,
So there's no
Forward.
endowment at this time?
not specific to the PAC.
Is there discussion about the policy of a percentage every time you do a fundraiser going into an endowment?
We,
She did have the endowment already established.
for the PAC specifically,
Uh-huh.
I apologize, there is one specific to the PAC.
I think that was discussed at the last committee meeting, that they do
Right.
have it set up so that when this is ready to go and the board is okay with it,
Yeah.
that could also be mentioned in some of the.
And we're leaving that up to donors, how they want to, so we're going to be specifically asking, besides what you see there, the 50,000 for the plaque on the wall, right? We're gonna ask donors specifically, will you help us put a new elevator in? Here's X amount of cost. Right, so we're going to fundraise specific items.
Designated gifts then.
Designated gifts. So I think an important thing that this board would want to know is what is the district's contribution? What are we doing? We have replaced the carpet in the foyer out there and in the stairs. We're going to paint the tower, right, Tommy?
Correct.
Yes. We're replacing all the front doors to the PAC. You open them, they slam shut. And the maintenance department over the last 25 years has done all they can to repair them, but at some point it's time for new doors. And we're hoping that when we do that project, we can get the doors smaller. They're 12-foot doors, which are incredibly expensive to replace. We want to put a pane of glass across the top and get those down to 10-foot doors, which are much more manageable to replace in the future. That'll be our gift to a generation from now when they're needing to replace doors again in 25 years. It's one of those situations where it's one of our newest buildings in the district, but it's now 25 years old. And I can't think of a building in the district that's used more than that one. Beyond what we use every school day, it's used over 200 nights a year by either the district or the community. So it really needs some TLC. So we're putting in about $100,000 will be, well, no, it'd be more than 100 because carpeting was more than that. How much?
85.
For the doors?
Oh, that was for the carpet.
Carpet was 85 by itself. So we're putting in probably close to 300,000 as the district's contribution. And some of that will be out of the full faith and credit money.
Is there any opportunity for challenge giving?
I don't think we're there yet. So, no, not yet.
Well, copper's the best on price per square inch, but platinum is right in there.
So can I write you down for a plaque?
Well, I was gonna ask if there's a naming opportunity, so if Joe Schmidt, if you want like the Joe Schmidt Performing Arts Center.
Correct.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to having the whole thing.
And that'll be a challenge.
for like $1 million
And I'll put in with the challenge to the rest of the board members to match my gift.
We are not currently talking about naming the PAC after an entity or a contribution, but just parsing it out. So.
The only other thing that comes to mind, and this might just be in the fine print, just that the donors would be the type of organizations that are representative of our values. So I think that's
I
probably.
don't think you get to make that choice.
If you have a diamond dispensary or something.
Correct. They have to be, yes, correct. They have to be a entity that our kids can actually access, right? So they cannot be a dispensary, cannot be a weapons manufacturer, those kind
That's
of
all,
things.
that's what I meant.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Because if we get to the other one, we want, wow. That becomes, yes, but there are criteria for advertising within the district.
Yep.
Yes. So, and I'm bringing this to you, Gary, because you know that I would sell advertising on my mother's tombstone if I could. So, and you tell me I have to be reined in. So here's your chance to rein me in. Otherwise, we are going to be selling advertising for this job.
Are you gonna go ahead?
Nothing's larger than 24 by 12.
What's that?
Nothing's larger than 24 by 12.
We did that for you.
Okay.
24 by 12.
And that works?
That will work.
Okay.
What is, I've been in there a lot, but I can't say that I pay super close attention to the current names that are up. Are any of those sponsors currently, or are those
Those are pretty,
individuals only?
those are people that contributed when the PAC was first built. And they've been up since then, and we've never done another fundraising effort since then. So they got really good mileage out of their contributions.
So those are staying up or coming
No,
down?
they'll come down.
You know, I have a question about the 10-year term. Why do you do a 10-year term for the plaque?
We haven't decided if it's 5 or 10.
Okay, I just saw that on the community partner donor wall. It said 10-year term.
Oh.
Opportunities for.
Is this
For 10 years.
That's what they have proposed right now for the wall, but they have not, on the next page, the wing sponsors and the
Yeah,
sponsors do not say what the term will be.
I mean, I would just share that, in my experience, which was a lot of fundraising, that they're permanent with the opportunity in 10 years to upgrade with another donation.
I believe that's something Melissa did mention to the committee, that
Yeah.
possibility.
Because there's a lot of folks that might be reluctant knowing that they won't get recognition 10 years down the road.
right. So this is not an action item, but if you kind of give me a thumbs up, you're okay with it, we'll move forward, and if I see anybody with a thumbs down, we'll readdress it. Any thumbs downs out there? Thumbs up?
Let's just look for thumbs down.
You're a little vote.
Yours undecided.
All right,
My only hesitancy would be the removal of those that have donated before. And what that looks like. But otherwise, I don't have a major problem.
all right, you can work on that. Okay. We're gonna move forward then.
Let's go to board reports and special concerns.
Yeah, I'd like to share something if I could. It's actually been an absolute pleasure to serve on this board since July. And I've had the opportunity to be able to meet with pretty much all of the staff in this office in some form or fashion. Whether it's been a committee meeting or having individual meetings with Trish and others to talk about college prep programs, accreditation, things that I wanted to learn about this community. And I want this community to know that this is an extraordinary group of people that work in this district office. I was surprised to hear that most of them are around 30 years, and I don't sense any burnout whatsoever. But their intelligence, their commitment to the district, their passion for what they do, their love for children is absolutely clear. And I just want to personally say that I appreciate all you guys do, because you work very, very hard. And you even sit here and listen to me keep talking right here while I'm talking, and you can go and go to bed. So anyhow, thank you very much for what you do.
Tammy?
Not at this time.
What?
Does anybody else have anything?
Well, I was,
In the
Later.
action items.
I was just gonna mention, we got to have a tour of the career and technical program with Trish and Tim. And Dustin and I got to go, and it was amazing. I was so impressed, over the years, some of my kids have been through it. It kind of jogged my memory. When we went through the wood shop, I remembered, oh yeah, the thing that he brought home and through the metal shop, but wood shop, metal shop, now auto shop, first aid CPR training, CAD drawing, business. I thought it was just amazing. And, we talked about how kids who have, or in part of that program have a higher rate of graduation. So I just wanted to say thank you for that tour. There's amazing work being done. And I hope that we can support it funding wise and perhaps even help grow it as it needs to, or as it makes sense to. So I just wanted to say that, thank you. And it was just amazing to see all the good work going on.
And how was lunch?
It was great.
I think I
ate the most. That's pretty good.
I'll give a very honest answer. For cafeteria food, it was pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. I'd have been happy as a kid to eat that.
I didn't get to go, but I'm really sorry I missed lunch.
We can set up
I want
lunch
to
for you
out.
anytime, and
So let's go, Joe.
any board member wants to go get lunch or breakfast, I will set that up. for
I'm
you.
not sure if I'd take my wife on a date to the cafeteria, but it was excellent for cafeteria food.
We'll take it.
Is it just like National School Lunch?
It is National School Lunch Week. Yeah, so we had a group getting their picture taken yesterday and eating food and had a great time. We had chicken and waffle panini. Somebody chickened out and didn't eat the waffle part.
So.
We had buffalo chicken and macaroni and cheese, some salads, some energy bowls. There's a whole variety of things that were consumed. We had a good time.
And they have 3 separate sections, one, the grab and go section for the students that just, for whatever reason, don't have any time, and they had 4 items, I think, that they just walk up, get that. And take off. The standard lunch that we went to, and then of course on the other side, there's the. You can buy stuff. Second. So, but I was happy to hear that
Hey, Chris.
our 200-pound kids can actually get more food than our 100-pound kids, which apparently that used to be a problem, and some kind of way the district got that solved. So I'm really happy about that.
That's good news.
And even for those short on time, I think Danny was timing one of the students through the line. It looked pretty long, but they made it through in 3 minutes and 52 seconds. They were on crutches too, so. They picked, the tough case there.
Okay, let's move on to our action items. 7.1, approval of first reading of policies. You can take them individually or all at once. Oh, or the 2 of them at once. Carries. Looking for a motion.
No action tonight.
Getting late, Gary. Did you translate?
Are you looking for a motion for both of them?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, member Schmidt moves that we accept both policies, the one on expulsion as well as the one on program exemptions as currently written,
As presented.
as presented.
There you go.
Member Smith, I'll second.
Having a second, is there any discussion?
Member Brownell has a minority report for the program exemption that I'd like to read into the record. OSBA was contacted to double check the choice of may and shall. Despite OSBA's assurance that there is no legal prohibition against using shall in this policy, the current policy is the underlying legal authority relating to the district's authority on education program exemptions, which provides school districts may, excuse not shall, excuse students from a state required program or learning activity. They specifically warned about the potential pragmatic problems of using mandatory language in granting program exemptions. Using shall requires the district to grant the exemption in all religion and disability situations. OSBA has had districts receive requests to be excused from large portions and entire courses for religious purposes. Music from certain countries, topics relating to melting pot concepts, etc. In some of these situations, it would be burdensome on the teacher and disruptive to the class to make sure that the student is excused prior to having any discussion regarding the excused topic. Using shall takes away the district's ability to deny a request when it is based on a religious reason. I also spoke with John Higgins about the issue. And his response included the use of mandatory program exemption language effectively removes the educational professional from the final decision on educational program content and sends a clear message of no confidence to teachers and administrators alike. This message is clear despite comments that the proposed mandatory language change is not a reflection of current administration and educational staff, but circumstances might change in the future. If it is not a current issue, why change the current permissive language? And if it becomes problematic, the board can always revisit the policy language. Reserving credit awarding determination to the district is an inadequate check on mandates. I believe this sets up a possible future conflicts between not only parents, teachers, and administrators, but if I were a student, I would be less than thrilled to do coursework without credit. Of course, I do it all the time now, but I don't have to spend my precious school time doing that. Is the board of district administration, is the board or district administration aware of any cases in which current program exemptions policies, which uses the permissive may language, has been an issue? If not, why should the current permissive program exemption policy language be made mandatory? Under current district policies and procedures, parents who disagree with the process or a program exemption request decision by the district have extensive rights as to process, notification, and appeal of that decision under policy KB and KL. If the district sees an increase in program exemption issues that cannot be resolved between parents and the district through the current program exemption review decision / approval complaint process, the board can revisit the issue and related policy language at any time. So I feel that shall, always, and must are mandatory words that decrease the flexibility and ability of the district and parents to work out a collaborative path for a student's public education. Labels are boxes that can take away possibilities, local control, and encourage lawsuits and other unintended consequences. We have 100 new laws that we need to integrate into board policy. And I prefer not to add new mandates when unnecessary.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
What's that?
I was asking for other discussion. Or more.
Sure. Actually, just some of those arguments were great. In fact, a couple of times you referenced that if there's a problem, the board could revisit the policy. If there's some problems with the policy that we're approving today, we can revisit it. So the argument actually works both ways.
Member Smith, I appreciate you bringing that to us, and we did have a lot of discussion. I felt comfortable. I had some concerns like you, but I felt comfortable with our previous discussion that at the end that we still have the district can determine if credit will be granted. As you may recall, one of my concerns was the abuse of the language shall, and that, you know, you brought that up as well. But I also agree with Gary that if there's some sort of abuse there, that we can revisit it in the future.
Members say, well, I'll just say that I didn't hear any persuasive arguments or reasons why the language would need to change from shall to may. And, you know, as Gary presented, if there are issues, you know, this stuff isn't in stone. We have the ability to change it, you know, if needed. But, you know, ultimately, if I feel like changing it to shall comes down on the side of parents and families and their ability to decide what their kids are exposed to. If it causes problems, I myself am certainly open to discussing that and hearing feedback from the district. And we could bring it back.
I agree with everything everybody has said in terms of being in support of the word shall for the reasons they've given. But I'd also like to say that I don't agree with the idea that in policies that you can operate in the nebulous. I think words like shall are good words. I think words like as appropriate are not good words. I think those are the kind of words that open you up for a lot of problems in terms of interpretation. I'm not having any problem whatsoever with the word shall, and will certainly vote for that.
Having a second? Tanya?
Member Richardson,
Yes.
member Brownell,
No,
member Dipple,
Yes.
member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
member Sable.
Yes.
Member Wolf.
Yes. Okay, 7.2, approval of supplementary reading, Killer Angels.
Wanted to bring to your attention the Parent Advisory Council, discussed it last week in our meeting, there were several of the board members were there and heard the conversation that we had. We did have a vote and 7 parents approved, 2 did not approve, and 1 abstained from the vote. The primary reasons for the denial, I can't even think of.
The no vote?
It's late, I'm tired. It was because of the level of the book. And actually Jordan Castler, who is sitting here in front of me, is the teacher who has brought forward the book Killer Angels. There was concern about his ability to make it relevant to advanced 8th grade social studies. And I thought he could speak to that a little bit, as he is a very highly qualified teacher who's very skilled at that. There was also some concern over swear words that were in the book as well. And he might be able to address that for you as well. Yeah. So I'm gonna let him just share with you a little bit more.
Thank you, Trish.
You want to start with questions, or I just kind of start talking about why I chose it, or?
Jump right in. Why'd you choose it?
I chose it because the Battle of Gettysburg, in my view, is one of the most important 3 days in our entire country's history. I've been there twice. I've taken students there from North Middle School as recent as 2021. I read it in high school, and I read it in preparation in bringing the kids there from North in summer of 2021. And it's just a book that, when I was first assigned advanced 8th grade social studies, this is my first year doing it. I've always done 7th grade advanced. I've taught 8th grade for 10 years, but this is my first time getting the advanced class. My first thought was, I want to do a book study. I want to do something that's going to challenge the kids, especially if they lead into high school. Advanced 8th grade students are high level readers in general. It's part of the screening process for them being admitted. They pass the reading test, and these are the kinds of kids who come in the room, party bell rings, and say, "Hey, you got to put your book away. It's social studies time." So it's the kind of class where you're going to get pushed and challenged, and we do high level reading activities almost on a daily basis. Our class is highly driven by primary sources, so I don't think the reading level for these 2 classes in particular is going to be that difficult. So it's a topic I'm passionate about. It's a story that we're going to cover before we read the book. So they'll be familiar with, the story and its significance. But it's a story that humanizes war. And, for me, it changed my whole perspective on, well, I'm a history, my dad was a history teacher. I'm nerdy that way. But I think I feel pretty good that these kids are going to enjoy it. And if anything, it's going to make them enjoy history more. So, and Gettysburg is a great platform to talk about a lot of things. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yes.
I'm a former history, honors history, and AP American history teacher. And this book is an absolutely outstanding book. It's based on primary sources. It's filled with characters who are based on fact. I spent probably 15 years in the South, probably visited every battlefield there was, from Chickamauga to Fredericksburg to Gettysburg. And the Civil War was the Second American Revolution. And we are still feeling the impacts of that event at a very high level even today. And the language comes from primary sources. It's the culture of the time that's being demonstrated in that book. And I would highly recommend, we used it as a summer reading requirement for almost 20 years for 8th graders.
Yeah, and I've done
And it's
some,
an outstanding book.
it is, and I've done some research too. There's a lot of school districts around the country that, like you mentioned, this is required reading as early as 7th grade. Now, I see that more in like private schools. But it's from 7th up through 12th. And it's really a 9th grade Lexile score kind of book. So it's higher level than 8th grade, but it's not too much, I think, for these kinds of kids.
It's outstanding book.
Yeah.
I think one of the primary concerns that I heard listening to the Zoom meeting for the Parent Advisory Council was the use of the Lord's name in vain. I can't remember how many times. I don't think anybody had a count on it. So that's one thing to be concerned with. Certainly it fits the time, it fits the wartime speak as well. That said, I think that's just something that can be conversed about and discussed potentially. It doesn't catch all the other language. I think the subject matter is great. I am all for pushing our kids. It's an advanced class. I think there's no reason why they can't be held to a higher standard. I think in general, we have dumbed down a lot of things in our world in general and in education. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's something, thank you. It's something I want to push as they enter high school. A lot of these kids are probably, at least historically speaking, are going to enroll in a class like AP Human Geography, which is, the one class as a freshman you can take in the social studies realm with higher level reading. And I just think it's a good opportunity it's a good way to finish the year for those kids, because we do it, like I said, we're engaging primary sources almost every day. And so, a question someone might ask is the vocabulary too much? I mean, we just broke down the first charter of Virginia from 1606. I mean, that's as dry as it gets, and it's language that's old and difficult. And by the time we're reading this in late April or early May, I don't think it's going to be, too big of a challenge for those kids in particular.
And just in general, as I was talking to Tim probably a couple weeks ago, it's definitely not language they're not hearing on the campuses anyways. So, if it can be controlled in the way that that's dealt with.
Yeah, we'll be, context is one of the biggest vocabulary words of our class. And so talking about how people spoke back then and things like that, it's something that's scaffolded. And I think we'll kind of blunt the language a little bit. Like, it's so old timey. I was looking at some of that language. I think the word mostly used is damn. And as one of the quotes is like, a lot of it, like the damn good men, those kinds of quotes. And, one of them that I thought was kind of funny, where they said, by damn, man, if there's one human being in this world less devious than Robert Lee, I ain't yet met him. So it's like just 1800s, general speak.
Well, as a veteran, I know how we used to speak in the military.
Sure.
That's probably mild compared to.
That's very mild.
I just had one question there. He said anything I would have said, but did I hear correctly that you've taken students to Gettysburg?
Yeah, so I take students every other year.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you go to North, you have a chance to go.
Wow.
I have 2 very young children, and so a colleague of mine, Mason Mahaffey, has led the last one. And I'll probably let him do the next 1 or 2. I have my son's 4 and my other son's 10 months, so leaving on spring break is not a good idea. But yeah, so I've been working with this company since I started teaching between 2012, and it's a great program. And the last agenda I was in charge of, we always do DC, kind of the core, but we did DC, Gettysburg, Philadelphia. Yeah.
Right.
So
I just decided, I used to run for 10 years. I ran in Chickamauga Battlefield every Saturday and you could feel the ghosts.
oh, yeah, it's great.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, sacred territory.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. You do amazing things. Myself and my family all went. And it was a great opportunity for our students. Is there any more discussion?
I was just gonna say mildly off topic, but I would love for that to be something that happens not just at North. And I know
Yeah, I
there's
do.
special programs that different schools have, but just something to be thinking about as a district that sometimes it doesn't seem equitable,
Sure.
if I'm gonna use a term like
Yeah.
that.
No, I would love that. And South, I don't want to just South does it as well. It's not as predictable as we have it going at North, but they do trips like that as well. So, but I would love her to be able to trip. A group of kids.
There's also, these teachers do this independently. This isn't sponsored, it's not district,
It's fantastic. I'm not against it at all, but it should be on to make.
Ah, World Strikes.
there's some extra.
World Strikes, #1. Go give me that ES talk.
Hmm.
No, ES.
Yeah.
Very biased.
We might need to have a vote on a board field trip with you guiding.
As long as I can go.
No, you guiding. it.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I read this a number of years ago. I can't remember how many, and I kind of remember plowing through it, but so I looked for the phrase killer angel. I couldn't
Oh, yeah.
remember why is the title of the book
Okay.
Killer Angel.
Yeah.
And so I found
You find it?
two references. What a piece of work is man, in action how like an angel. And the old man grinning had scratched his head and said stiffly, well, boy, if he's an angel, he's a murdering angel.
Yeah.
And then Chamberlain is reflecting at the end about having this conversation. If it weren't for the slaves, there'd never have been no war now, would there? No, Chamberlain said. Well, then I don't care how much political fast talking you hear. That's what it's all about. And that's what them fellers died for. And I tell you, Lawrence, I don't understand it at all. No, Chamberlain said. He was thinking of Kilran, a man whose opinion he valued and was a great soldier. But let's see. No divine spark. He saw in the eyes of the dead people. No divine spark, animal meat, the killer angel. And then I know I had a hard time the first time through keeping track of who was on which side. So the first thing I did was make a cheat sheet. So that's just my little teaching tip.
There's so many good stories. That, you know, I mean, you probably know teaching it, that the participants in Gettysburg, it's just crazy, you know. Longstreet's a great example of a guy who fought for the South. He was also Ulysses S. Grant's best man at his wedding.
Yeah.
And he will, after the war, he will devote his life to help bring the Union back. So that's kind of a cool story. You got a guy like Dan Sickles, who loses his leg at Gettysburg, keeps the leg, has it put in a museum so he can go visit it annually. And this is also a guy who killed somebody in New York, pleaded temporary insanity and got off. So there's so many it's very fascinating, different times.
Well, it's been mentioned the rigor and the authenticity. I also felt it was very relevant. The personnel, the generals, talking throughout the book, fought the Spanish-American War together. And Robert E. Lee was asked to be a general for the North, and he had to choose between his loyalties to country, to his state, and to his family. And he could not deal with shooting at his family. And so that.
You have the North punished him?
And his home is now Arlington Cemetery.
Arlington, yep.
Very Union soldiers on his property.
So anyway, I thought all three of these qualities were well met, and And it was much more readable this time, and I think an eighth grader could do it.
It's not dense. I read plenty of Civil War books, and that is not a dense book. That's why I won the Pulitzer. I mean, it's a great book. It's a good.
All right, done.
Report.
What?
We don't have a motion.
So wait, it's time for the minority report. Not saying anything about Gettysburg, the class, the material, the history. Talking about the standards for District 7. There's many books out there dealing with Gettysburg and that period of time and that kind of thing. And the amount of profanity in the book, whether it's
Authentic.
or not. I mean, there are things that have happened in this world that we're not going to expose kids in our school system to just because they're history and authentic. We need to have a standard for what level of profanity and that kind of stuff as a public institution we're going to expose the kids to. I'm mostly doing the minority report to, speak to the Parent Advisory Council, to our staff who bring this material forward as being a good thing for one of our curriculum, to always keep an eye on. I guess it may be good or even great in certain circumstances or different age levels. But is this the standard we want to uphold for District 7? So that's my minority report.
Member Sable. I motion to adopt the Killer Angels book for North Middle School 8th grade supplementary reading.
Member Schmidt seconds.
Wait a second, is there any discussion?
Gary, I appreciate you saying that. I don't disagree with that. For me, this doesn't rise to the level of negating it as a good resource for teaching, but I completely and wholeheartedly support being very cautious with books that are included. As it relates to language, sexual material or anything otherwise that might be objectionable. But thank you for saying that. And I really appreciate listening to the parents talk about it on the TAC. So,
Member Schmidt, I agree that we should be very careful in choosing books. I totally agree with that. They should be age appropriate and that deal with subject matter that is absolutely relevant to the education of children. So I appreciate that too. But I like the book a lot. I think it's totally appropriate for you.
Anya.
Member Rickerson,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes.
Member Tipton,
yes.
Member Schmidt,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Sable.
Yes.
Yes. 7.3, approval of resolution.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Contingency fund transfer.
Do you need to have conversation? Have any questions or conversation about it? But we brought to you earlier in September of moving the $230,000 into contingency fund, increasing the contingency to $830,000. In order to do that, we need the board to approve it.
Member Schmidt moves to approve resolution 2324.03 contingency fund transfer.
Member Dipdahl, second.
Having a second, is there any discussion?
Member Brownell, I approve of adding to the contingency fund. We usually use some, if not most, of our contingency fund, and this seemed the 600,000 seemed like an inadequate number, and as was mentioned at the budget committee meetings. So I appreciate the effort of staff in coming up with these fine-tuned numbers. Even though there are some that I would that I definitely value, and I'm sorry to move to contingency, but I feel it's fiscally prudent to do so. And I hope that the board keeps in mind that if we are asked to, or if we propose spending money somewhere else, that we are we have made this decision and taken this money for emergency purposes, and I don't want to really spend money frivolously on something else.
And Superintendent Sweeney, it's sort of my understanding that as we progressed through the year and got near the end, in particular, the one item relating to musical instruments, if things are working out later in the year, you'd bring it back to us about that.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, Tanya. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Brownell?
Yes.
Member Goodall?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Sable?
Yes.
Yes. All right, approval of resolution 23-24-34, District 7 reading resolution.
I move that we approve resolution number 2324-04, District 7 reading resolution.
Member Schmidt seconds.
Having a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none.
I guess my only hope is that the member Brownell, that our families take advantage of this opportunity and are supportive of our efforts to get every student up to their grade level.
All right. Tanya. Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Brownell?
Yes.
Member Goodall?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Sable?
Yes.
Member Wilkins? Yes. 8.0 future meeting dates. Can we read them all?
Got it.
Okay.
Calendar.
See calendar. Okay. I'm gonna recess. General session, we can take a 5-minute break.
Yeah. Spectacular. Parents were spectacular. The field
was a cliffhanger
the game was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did everything we could to give it away.
Well,
But they didn't, but that freshman quarterback was something else.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's Betsy.
he's pretty.
Yeah, that little freshman quarterback.
Rosetta.
Oh, we made the change.
And the band was
Okay.
fabulous.
I'm not sure why Joe said little though.
I know, I did,
No.
I meant age. He did a great, that was big shoes to fill, and the band was fabulous.
It's time.
All right.
All right, good
So
one.
the freshman team misses him.
I would imagine. And the JV team.
I think he spoke to his mother today and he was moved
And on the radio, the
permanently up.
the
Yeah.
broadcast afterwards said, do we have a quarterback controversy?
Yeah.
And they were
No, that's,
Okay, and let's reconvene general session. Adjourn.
all right.
Awesome.
So Cassie, are you saying you want to put?
Comments in the executive?
I want whatever you.